Look at now, students. Our today's topic is on replacement model in our inventory theory. What about the replacement model? Suggest to you, if you see, students, any items, if you purchase after some periods of time, it may deteriorate, it may fail suddenly, it may not work properly. So at that time, it needs to replace that items very necessary because of we require the some quality. So such a product which is not given you such a quality, so it needs to replace that items after some periods of time. So that is the replacement of items. If you see as an example, you can see the machines which is purchased and installed in a production systems due to usage. Some of its components wear out and its efficiency is reduced after particular time. So such a machines which needs to replace as examples. What about the decision types? If you see, we may decide whether to wait for complete failure of the items. The expensive items may be considered individually to decide whether we should replace now or if not. Such kinds of possibility which is having decision types excludes. According to the failure mechanism, if you see students, it having some parts basically depend on the nature of the failure. In nature of the failure, it having gradual and the sudden parts. As in gradual, which kinds of three things having, that is what your progressive, retrogressive, and the random. If you see progressive, that is it having step by steps which gradually goes to the deteriorated parts progressively. Retroactively, it fails suddenly, but after that it works very well. That is the retrogressive. And random, it may be fails or not may fails. That is the random part. And what about the sudden part? If you see sudden parts, it means what? It definitely having not work. That is the failure mechanism of that items here. Gradual failure is having progressive increase in maintenance expenditure or operating cost. As a decreased productivity of that equipment decreases in the value of the equipment, that is resale value of the equipment facility also decreases. That is, if I'm considering automobile machine tools are there, that is the your gradual failure. Which kinds of items occur in your sudden failure? The sudden failures in this, the items ultimately fail suddenly after a period of some time. The life of the equipment cannot be predicted as these some sort of random variables are there. The period between installations and the failure is not a constant, as the period between if you install one equipment and failure is not always constant for any particular type of equipment, but will follow some frequency distributions there. As a progressive failures, if you see in these electrical bulbs and computer components, probability increases as the life increases. That is the progressive failure. Retrogressive failure as this having some curve. If you see in this graph, it having some curve as from this side to this side way. As probability increases, life also increases. Random failure, if you see in this case, vacuum tubes are there nowadays, which not to be used as a vacuum tubes. In this having life increases, probability increases, but in this random failure, some peak point are noted there. So it may fail suddenly, that is your random failure. As stages of maintenance, any equipment which needs to maintain some stages, that is types of failure, failure rate, causes of that failure, which kinds of causes, cost of the failure, which kinds of cost should may occur, suitable maintenance policy which needs according to, and it having the three main phase. The phase is a infant phase, first phase, second youth phase, and the third old age phase. Early failure types of the failure decrease in a train. Some of these are in the stages of the maintenance. If you see types of the replacement problems, replacement of items that deteriorate with a time. If you see the items which deteriorates according to the particular period of time, that is called the replacement of that items. that is types of the replacement. Value of money not changing with the time. According to the times, that value of the money which may not be changed. Second things, replacement of that items that deteriorate with the time. According to the time, that item may deteriorates and the value of money changing with according to the time. According to the particular time, it may deteriorates and also a value also may change or below to the previous value. And replacement of items that fail suddenly, individual and the group replacement policy according to that replacement policy. And after that, it having staff replacements. If we see after that, it having replacement of items that deteriorate with the time according to with the time, value of money not changing with the time. As I am saying that if you purchase the gold, the value of the money may not change or may change, but according to the change, it not having less value to you. So it have such a products occur in these criteria, in these sections that certain equipment parts are deteriorate gradually with respect to the particular period of the time. As I'm saying, automobile part wear out and age and the owner needs to replace the old part at a suitable time by a new one. What happens in the parts of the suddenly, as there are certain items or systems or products whose probability of failure increases with the time. It may definitely fails after particular period of time. Such a products which is always in your home, always in with you also, after particular period of time it may not work very well. So definitely it may um, fails at any time. So you may replace that product. So this category in replacement of items within the suddenly fails. Within the suddenly fails. As I'm saying, example, resistors, components of air conditions, units, and certain electrical components are there. Individual policy. What kinds of policies are there? This policy states that replace the item soon after it's a failure. After particular failure, you may replace that. That is the individual replacement policy. Hence, the cost of the replacement will be somewhat greater as the item is to be purchased individually. If you replace one product's one particular item from that product, the definitely its cost is very high. So according to the individual replacement policy, cost it may be high. Okay, from the time of the failure to the replacement, the systems remains compatibly ideal. More than that, as the item is purchased individually, the cost of the item may be more. So definitely to you may purchase the whole product as considering the one by one product in that. As example, it having bearing in your machine. Bearing, you know what bearing? So to replace that, it may require some cost, but the actual whole price of that cost is low, but the bearing cost is very also high. Group replacement policy, which kinds of, as example, street lights, electronic parts, and etc. If the organization has got the statistics of failure of that items, it can calculate the average life of the items and replace the item before it fails. That the systems can work without any kinds of break. This is the group replacement policy. We can replace the items using the group number of items. So suppose in a one organization, so that want to purchase the computer. So they then such organizations sell whole of its previously previous computers at a group level. That is at a whole level. So that policy is called the group replacement policy. In that group replacement policy, all the items are replaced with a new items, and the cost of replacement is also low. This is the group replacement policy. This is what your group replacement policy of the items. Okay. So thank you, students. Thank you all of you for today's lectures.